Hello and welcome to this course on JavaScript. I am RD and I will be your instructor for this course. I will not waste time telling about myself here. You can read about me on the course detail page. This is an introductory level course on the JavaScript language, but we will cover it a little in depth. So this course may be said to be introductory to intermediate level course on JavaScript. Keeping with the Dissolve tradition, I will try and explain some seemingly difficult things like functional programming ideas easily and hope that the absorption rate for these concepts is high. JavaScript was designed to run on the browsers so that one may write programs and make the web pages dynamic and interactive rather than seeing only well-styled HTML pages on their browsers. One may develop what are called as rich internet applications if they have a good understanding of JavaScript. As Douglas Crockford puts it, the biggest issue with JavaScript programmer is that they start programming in this language without really learning it. That is, people having some experience in other programming languages like Java or C# or C try and use the knowledge of those languages to program in JavaScript, and that leads to a lot of issues. JavaScript, which is said to be the language of the web, adds dynamism to a web page. And all major browsers support JavaScript. And what do we mean by dynamism in a page? Well, we can do things like sort some items right on the browser, or we may enable a button in a form only when all the required fields have been filled in, or maybe change the background color of some HTML element based on a certain event. Unlike HTML, which is just a markup language, JavaScript happens to be a programming language, using which you may write programs which can execute, usually on the browser, doing something useful. So keeping with the tradition, let's start with writing a Hello World program in JavaScript. Let me first create a folder and name it Learning JavaScript. And let's create a new HTML file and name it Hello World in JavaScript.html. You may have worked with JavaScript earlier and found it hard, or you may have heard other people saying that JavaScript is hard to work with. But JavaScript is actually quite a fun language to work with. If you know a little bit of history about why JavaScript is the way it is and why it is a little unlike other traditional languages. And now that HTML5 and CSS3 with JavaScript has become the platform of choice to develop rich internet applications, there's no escape from JavaScript anymore. Well, jokes apart, let's see a little history of JavaScript to understand why there are some potential pain points so that we may avoid those pitfalls. The first thing that you should know, and many of you may already be knowing, is that JavaScript has nothing to do with Java. They are completely different languages without any relation except for maybe why the name of JavaScript has a Java in it. The history of JavaScript starts with a company named Netscape and this gentleman Brendan Eich, who happens to have co-founded the Mozilla project. Now, Netscape had a browser named Netscape Navigator that was in direct competition with Microsoft's Internet Explorer. Netscape wanted to make web pages richer by putting some dynamism in place. Till then, HTML pages were static, and Netscape, driven by the browser war with Microsoft, wanted to give a better experience to its users. So in 1995, they hired Brendan Eich to develop a programming language that can be executed on the In most programming languages, we have a way to retain the data for future use in what are called as variables. The way to declare a variable is to use the var keyword followed by the name of the variable. Let's call it message. So this is called the variable declaration step. We can put a semicolon after this, and now this has become a statement. If you are familiar with a language like For most of the tutorial from now, we will use the browser console to write JavaScript statements, because that way we can quickly test our code snippets. All major browsers provide some way of REPL style console, which stands for Read Eval Print Loop. REPL is a simple interactive programming environment like the console, which we will see in a minute. This environment reads expressions or input that we type in, evaluates it, prints its value, and it does that in a loop. That is, we can keep inputting data or expressions, and the environment keeps reading, evaluating, and printing the value. Now, the kind of values that can be represented and manipulated in a programming language are known as data types. And one of the most fundamental characteristics of a programming language is the set of types it supports. Data types like strings, numbers, characters, etc. Types in JavaScript may be divided into two categories: primitive types and object types. Primitive types include numbers, strings of text, and Boolean types representing true or false values. Apart from primitive data types, everything else in JavaScript is an object in some way. Even functions in JavaScript can be considered to be objects. Well, there is very thin line between them, but we will talk more about objects and functions later. Null is also an object type, but it is a special one in the sense that it represents no object. There is a special value in JavaScript, undefined, which is neither an object or function or any of the primitive data types. An undefined value is of its own type, undefined, representing absence of a value. That is, we cannot talk about the type of that data as it is not even defined. Alright? Let's see some examples. Let's declare a variable x without assigning any value to it. Now, variable declaration itself is an expression which evaluates to undefined. In REPL style, the console prints out the value of the expression each time we hit enter. So this undefined is the value of the expression evaluated by JavaScript. For example, if we just type 5 and hit enter, although we have not printed anything, The JavaScript console reads the expression entered, evaluates it, which is just 5, and prints it out. Now, if we print the value of x, we see that it prints undefined. Let us see what kind of language JavaScript is. We will not go too deep into it, but this is just to give you a little idea on different flavors that JavaScript contains. JavaScript is definitely a scripting language. A scripting language is a special type of a programming language in which programs may be written as a set of statements which are then executed by what is known as an interpreter. For example, the JavaScript interpreter is usually a part of the browser itself, and it helps in execution of JavaScript code embedded inside a web page within the script tags. There is no compilation step involved, and the JavaScript interpreter reads the code statement by statement, executing them as it goes. In contrast, a language like C or C++ or Java has a main method from which program execution starts. While in JavaScript, there is no need to write a method or function as it is called here. That is, a program in JavaScript may just be written as a script without having any methods. JavaScript happens to support functional programming as well. It means that functions in JavaScript are first-class citizens of the language and may also be treated as data, or variables may hold functions as values. We will see it in more detail later. JavaScript is also object-oriented, but the kind of object orientation is not class-based like in Java or C# if you have worked with those languages. Rather, object orientation in JavaScript is prototype-based. Again, we will not get into too much detail about it just yet. JavaScript is also a dynamically typed language. If you have worked with Java, which is a statically typed language, you must have noticed a few things about variables. When you declare a variable, you must specify its type as well, whether it's a string, integer, or any custom type. Also, once the type of variable is specified, it cannot change as the program executes. For example, if we have this variable str of type string, which is pointing to a string hello in Java, we cannot write this statement now. That is, we cannot have str have an integer value later. A string in JavaScript is a sequence of characters where each character is represented as a 16-bit value. So by default, JavaScript uses the UTF-16 encoding to store string data. Of course, if the data is coming from the server and content encoding header is set to UTF-8, the browser will interpret the string correctly. But we are not talking about that here. We are talking about the string data type in JavaScript. In most commonly used cases, you don't even have to worry about these details unless you are working with internationalization, supporting multiple languages on your website. But that's a whole different complicated thing altogether, and let's not get into that here. As you have already seen earlier, we can declare a variable and assign it some string like this. Now here, message is a variable and hello world is literally a string. Such data that appears literally in your programs are called literals. So here, hello world is a string literal. A string literal may be surrounded with double quotes as shown, or single quotes like this. Many If you already have a background in another programming language, say Java, you may have seen that there are different data types to represent numbers. Byte, int, long, etc. to represent integer numbers, and float and double to represent real numbers. But in JavaScript, we don't have so many types for numbers. We have just one data type to represent numbers, a number. A Boolean data type is used to represent true and false kind of values. There are only two possible values of this type, true or false. Let's declare a variable x and assign a value of false to it. Notice that we are not putting false in double quotes or single quotes, otherwise that will become a string. We just write true or false, which are the only two Boolean literals. Alright? Let's check the type of this variable. And of course, it's a Boolean type. Now, one thing to note about Boolean values is that JavaScript also treats some other values as falsy values. And these values are undefined, null, 0, both plus and minus zeros, nan, which stands for not a number in floating point system, and the empty string. All these values are treated as false by JavaScript under certain conditions. So let's see when are they treated as false? We have already declared this variable x. Now let's declare another variable y and let it be undefined. So if we compare the two variables by using the double equals operator, we get a false. So these two values are not equal. But I said that JavaScript treats undefined as falsy value. So why aren't they equal? Well, undefined is not really false, okay? It's basically its own type, which is undefined itself. But if we were to use it in a conditional, it will be treated as false by JavaScript. Let me write a little function. Don't worry about the syntax right now. We will get to functions and conditions. Let's see how to write comments in JavaScript. A comment is that text which is written in a JavaScript program but is skipped from evaluation by the interpreter. So comments are used to explain what your program is doing and it makes your code more readable. It is a good idea to write nice, clean and meaningful comments inside your program so that the intent of your program can be quickly clear to someone else looking at your code. There are two types of JavaScript comments, single line comment and multi-line comment. A single line comment starts with two forward slashes together, and whatever text is written after that is simply ignored by JavaScript runtime and is not executed. So we can write a single line comment like so. Or we can write a comment after some JavaScript statement as well. For example, like shown here. So here JavaScript does evaluate the variable x, but it ignores everything after the two forward slashes. All right. and that includes the forward slashes. That is, it is a part of the comment, or rather it indicates to the JavaScript runtime that don't evaluate anything after this. Okay. Sometimes we may need to write a bigger explanation for the code, and that explanation may span across multiple lines. The primitive actions that one can do on some data in JavaScript is by using what are called as operators. Most operators are represented by punctuation characters such as plus, minus, equal to, double equal to, etc. But there are some operators such as type of or instance of, which are represented by string keywords and not characters. Let's look at some commonly used operators, starting with mathematical operators. You may probably already be knowing a programming language, so most of the operators may be familiar to you. So if you want, you may skip over towards the end of this section. Don't skip the complete section though, because I will be talking about an important point, which also happens to be a common source of bugs. So there are commonly used mathematical operators, and these operators work on numbers. They are used to add two numbers, subtract one number from the other, divide one number from another, or we may want to find the remainder of a number on division by another number. So let's open our console and see a couple of these in action. We can do 2 into 3, and this prints 6. We can even hold the result of this evaluation in a variable, say var x is equal to 2 into 3. And now x has a value of 6. By the way, this equal to operator is the assignment operator. And even this assignment returns a value, which is the value that is assigned to the variable. Alright. We could have used a mathematical operator directly on variables like so. Here we have declared these two variables a and b with values 4 and 6, and we can add a and b. Okay. By the way, the plus operator is also defined for strings, and what it does is that it concatenates two strings. Alright. So if we say hello plus world, we get a new string which is made up by concatenating the two operand strings. But other operators are not defined for strings. For example, we cannot multiply a string with another string. That doesn't really make sense. Alright. But there is a magic that happens sometimes, which we will see in the section on type conversion. Then we have these conditional operators, which compare numeric values less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. These operators compare numbers An expression in a programming language is something which may be evaluated to produce a value. An expression is formed by a combination of variables and operators such that it is syntactically correct. Typically, complex expressions may be created by using simple expressions along with operators. For example, a variable declaration itself is an expression, and the variable declaration expression evaluates to undefined value. Alright? So this undefined is printed here. If you recall, this console environment is REPL style. So when we hit enter, it reads and evaluates the value of the expression and prints that out. Variable declaration is also an expression which evaluates to a value of undefined. Similarly, variable assignment expression evaluates to the value that has been assigned to the variable. So now if we say x is equal to 4, 4 is printed on the console because this expression itself evaluates to 4, the assigned value. Actually, variables themselves form some of the simplest expressions. So if we just type in x and hit enter, the value of this expression is printed on the console. Alright. Similarly, literals and constants may also be treated as simplest form of expressions. By using simpler expressions and operators, we can come up with more complex expressions. Expressions are evaluated from left to right, with part having operators with higher precedence to be evaluated first, which is the case with most programming languages. But I suggest that instead of trying to memorize the order of precedence for operators, just use brackets to enclose expressions that you want to be evaluated first. For example, in this case, we want x plus 2 to be evaluated first, so we put it . Control flow statements are the ones which help us put some logic in our programs. In other words, control the flow or execution of a program. Again, most of the statements are similar to what you may already have seen in a C-like language. Let's start with the if statement. The if statement is quite simple. We write if, then put brackets, and inside the brackets we put a logic expression which evaluates to a Boolean value, either true or false. Then we open a curly brace and then close the curly brace in the next line. And inside this block of code, we write the statements which will be executed only when the logic expression evaluates to true. If it is false, then the code inside this block is not executed. Okay? So it is only executed when the logic expression evaluates to true. And you have seen this in action when we implemented the check falsy function, right? Alright, that had a case of if else. So let's see that next. In the if else statement, we add an else block of code, and we can have other statements inside this block of code. So this is another block of code that we have, and the statements in this block are only executed when the logic expression evaluates to false. Okay, so if the expression is true, then the if block of code is executed. Otherwise, the else block of code is executed. Okay. So if something is true, run these set of statements, else run this other set of statements. Sometimes there may be more than one condition, each condition executing a different block of code. And for that, we can add another if-else block of code. So after the if, we can write another logic expression or condition which, if true, will execute this block of code. And we can have more than one such if-elses. Okay? And finally, it ends with an else. And the else block of code will get executed when none of the above conditions are true. Okay? So we can have multiple blocks. Another type of conditional statement which deals with branches in code is the switch case statement, which is very similar to other programming languages. The structure of the switch case statement is as shown here. The switch takes an expression, and based on the value of the expression, particular case statements are executed. Now, one major difference between the if-else and switch case statements is that if-else conditions and their corresponding blocks of code can work with range of values. For example, we may check for a condition if a variable is greater than, say, 5. But switch case statements work with discrete values. That is, the expression in the switch statement is evaluated to a value, and depending on the value, the corresponding case statement is executed. Let's take an example to show this. Let's write a little function which takes the day of the week as a number and returns that day as a string. Example, it may take 1 as an argument and returns Monday. So let's name this function day of week, and inside this we write the switch case statement. So the switch is on the day parameter, but it could have been an expression which evaluates to a single value. Sometimes there are things in a program that we want to do repeatedly, multiple times, alright? For example, let's say that we have to print numbers from 1 to 1000. JavaScript provides us with what is called as a while loop to be able to do things repeatedly. And the structure of the while loop is something like this. We write the while keyword and then within brackets we put a logic expression which may evaluate to true or false values. And as long as the value is true, all the statements in the code block inside the while loop will be executed. So let's say that when the control comes to the while loop, the logic expression is evaluated, and if it evaluates to true, then all the statements inside the code block are executed one by one until it reaches the end of the code block, after which the logic expression is evaluated again. If it evaluates to true, then again all the statements in the code block are executed one by one. And this keeps on happening until the time the logic expression evaluates to false, in which case the control comes out of the while loop to the next statements if there are any. Now let's write a while loop to print numbers from 1 to 10. So what we do is that we can initialize a variable with a value of 1, and then in a while loop check JavaScript provides a for loop too, which can be thought of as a syntactic sugar for a particular type of a while loop. And that type of while loop is this, in which we first initialize a variable outside the while loop, then evaluate a condition, and then execute some code if the condition is true. Finally, updating the value of that variable appropriately so that a breaking condition is reached. Now, this kind of a while loop can also be written as a for loop, which is slightly more concise. And the way to write it is, we first write the for keyword, then open and close brackets, and this space is divided in 3 parts, separated by 2 semicolons. The first place is meant for the variable declaration and initialization. Then the condition inside the while loop goes and sits at the second place. And finally, any variable updates that may happen to reach the breaking condition is put in this third slot. And finally, all the code that is inside the while loop is put in a code block. I mean all the statements except the variable update statement, which has already gone here. So these two types of loops are essentially doing the same thing, but they are just different ways of writing your program. Let's do the same example of printing numbers from 1 to 10 using a for loop. Let's go to our console window and type for in brackets where I equal to 1, which is the variable declaration and initialization step. Then after the semicolon, we write the condition I less than or equal to 10. Then another semicolon, and then we increment the value of I by 1. And inside the code block, we can just type console.log I. Alright. So that's a little for loop. JavaScript has another variation of the for loop which is called the for in loop. And this construct helps us access each property of a JavaScript object. So we will look at it later after talking. JavaScript provides break and continue keywords which may be used inside loops, and they help us either break out of the loop using the break keyword or continue looping through with other elements. You have already seen the use of break in the switch cases statement, but let's see another example. Let's use a for loop just like the one we did earlier, which prints numbers from 1 to 10. Inside this loop, we can check if the value of I is 6, we break out of the loop. Okay. And now when we hit enter, you can see that the loop was executed for values of I ranging from 1 to 5, because when I is 6, this if condition is met and the break statement breaks the loop and the control comes out of the for loop. Alright. Now this break statement can also be used in while loops, exactly in the same way. Now let's look at the continue keyword. Let's use the same for JavaScript is a functional programming language. So functions are first-class citizens of the language. Actually, there is a very thin line between objects and functions in JavaScript. And we can treat functions as data or object, which means we can even pass a function itself as an argument to a function. But we will talk more about that in another chapter. Right now, let's look at the syntax of a function so that you may start writing some simple functions. Alright. Just like the var keyword declares a variable, the function keyword is used to declare a function. Alright. So let's declare a function xyz which returns say 1. So we say function, then the name of the function which is xyz, and then open and close parens. Then we open braces. Then we hit shift enter to avoid evaluation just yet. Let's return 1 and end this statement with a semicolon. Let's shift enter again and finally put a close brace to end the function definition. Now let's hit enter, hinting the JavaScript interpreter that we are done with our input. The interpreter prints undefined because the function declaration does not evaluate to anything or does not return anything, hence it is undefined. Then we can invoke the function xyz by typing the name and open and closed parent. Alright, so it prints 1. We could also have chosen to hold the value returned by the function in a variable for later use. Functions may also take parameters. For example, let's write a function add which takes two parameters a and b, alright, and it returns the sum of a and b. One thing to notice in JavaScript functions, especially if you are coming from a C or Java type language background, is that the method parameters don't have any type information, But that's just like variable declaration, because even there we don't specify the type of variable, as JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. Also, the function does not specify a return type. Alright, so the general structure of a function is that we start with a function keyword, then the name of the function, then the parameter list. Another difference that JavaScript has with other commonly used languages is that in most languages, variables have a block scope, whereas in JavaScript, variables have what is called as a function scope. Now, what is the difference between the two? Well, in case of block scope, a variable is accessible within the block of code where it is defined. So in this Java code sample, variable x will be defined within the if block of code because it is declared there. X will not be visible either in the else block or outside the if block of code. But if there were more code blocks within the if block itself, then x will be visible inside those. Alright, so this is called block scope. Function scope, on the other hand, means that a variable declared anywhere within a function is accessible within the whole function. So in this example, we have declared a local variable x inside the if block, but it can also be accessed from the else block or even from outside the complete if-else statement. This difference makes us think about what would be the best practice while declaring variables. Well, in case of block scope, we are used to declaring variables at the place of their first use. But in case of function scope, it is better that we declare all the variables used in the function right at the start of the function body. And you will understand why it is a better approach once you understand the global object and how are things tied together in JavaScript, which we'll talk about in a As you saw in the lecture on Boolean data type, some values convert to true while others convert to false. This happens because JavaScript does automatic type conversion at times. But this does not just happen with Boolean values alone. Consider this example. What value will this expression evaluate to? Well, if you were dealing with a language like Java, the star or multiplication operator is not defined for strings, right? So this kind of expression will give a compile time error. And the multiplication operator is not defined for strings even in case of JavaScript. But what JavaScript does is that it sees the multiplication operator, knows that this operator can only be applied to numbers, so it tries to convert both the string operands to numbers. Similarly, if one of the operands was a string, JavaScript tries to convert that operand to a number, and if it can, it will evaluate the expression correctly. You should know about this behavior in JavaScript to be able to write correct programs. Now pause the video here and think about what happens if we do this. If you thought that the value of this expression would be 10, then think again. We are using the plus operator on Let's complete this chapter by seeing how to embed JavaScript code in your web page, because ultimately JavaScript is meant to be run on web pages. That is, at least most of the times. Although JavaScript is finding uses on the server side as well, Node.js being one example, but that is not what we will be dealing with in this course. You have already seen how to embed JavaScript code in your web page within the script tags. Now, there are a few things about the script tag. There can be multiple script tags in a web page, although it is better to have one and keep all your JavaScript code in a single place. In the last lecture, we saw how to use JavaScript code snippets inside your web page. Now let's see how to load external JavaScript files. Again, we need to use the script tag, but we need to use its src attribute, giving the URL to the JavaScript file. Now, why not just embed the code right there on the page? Well, there are many reasons why most of the JavaScript code that we use in a web page comes from separate JavaScript files. Alright, so let's first create a new JavaScript file. Let's call it hello world.js and write the test function first. Let me just copy this whole thing from the HTML and Now we can add the src attribute in this script tag so that the browser may load this JavaScript file. Because we have kept the file in the same directory, we can just use the relative URL like this. So when the browser loads the HTML, it will load this file from the same directory. Let's refresh the browser and we can see the alert message pop up. So as we were discussing, why is it useful for JavaScript to be kept in a separate file? Well, we not only use our own JavaScript code, but many times we use external libraries like jQuery or AngularJS, in which case they are